Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to review a movie called You're Next. Now, first of all, before we dive into the movie, I want to talk about the physical copy that I have. This is part of a new wave at Walmart where they have, I can't remember the exact amount, but there are several new horror films that are in a Walmart exclusive steelbook that have this orange and black sort of tone color where it's just multiple different films. It looks like half of them might be Lionsgate. This one's Lionsgate, and I would assume some of the others are, but I'm not positive. But there are several different movies that have this sort of same coloring. So obviously, we got that quote on the back from the movie, and I just think it's really nice. It's really cool. It's got sort of that image, that mask from the movie. Got the character on the front, so I really like it. I think this is a pretty cool copy. I think it was 25 bucks. It's a pretty fair price for a steelbook, so I'm glad I have it. And this movie was recommended, and I basically went into it blind. I didn't really know anything about it. I'd watched or I looked at a synopsis online of what it generally was about. I was intrigued, so I picked it up and I checked it out. And when I watched this was actually one of the most fun watches I've had in a while. It's basically it's a slasher, but there are enough plot twists throughout the movie that keep it interesting. So basically, you have this couple, Crispian and Aaron. They're going home. For they're going back home, and Crispian's family. He's introducing Aaron to his family, so she's meeting all of them, and we get the sense that this is a very wealthy group of people, and Aaron does not have that background. So that's essentially her sort of the disconnect between her and basically the rest of the characters. As sort of you have this movie where they're getting to know each other a little bit, and really no one's connecting with her at all. And this whole getting to know each other, this doesn't take very long to get into the action at all. In fact, the movie opens with a sort of this first kill of the movie sort of thing. It's where it takes place in a different location. You don't have main characters. You just get a sense of what these killers are like, what they do, and their level of brutality. So the movie wastes no time jumping right into the action. And when we get to our main characters, they spend some time to get to know each other, but it takes maybe not even 10 minutes, and the action has already begun again. So I love that this movie just went right into it. It doesn't have to rely on some plot that takes an hour long to then pick up and then throw in some interesting stuff. This just started off interesting. So that's one of the first things I really love about this one is it wasted no time getting into the good stuff. And it was fun. So as the killings start happening, as the attacks begin, it's interesting because they're all gathered at the table. This whole big wealthy family just gathered at the table, and all of a sudden arrows come flying through the window, and just the sheer panic of the characters. It's almost comedic, even though it's not a funny movie, to see how they're trying to come up with how to handle things. You have this guy's complaining because he's got an arrow in his shoulder. You have them arguing about who's the fastest and who's the strongest, trying to make a getaway, who should be the strongest or fastest to go get help or go to the car. And they're sort of arguing amongst themselves, which sort of gets some of them killed. And it's almost comedic because you get the sense that these are some pretty douchey characters. And so although watching people die isn't fun, it's almost just that very small bit of satisfying when you see basically these are terrible people. But like I said, it gets right into the action and it sort of picks up. This movie, it fascinated me because a lot of slashers will have this sort of 5, 6 characters, and they'll just sort of weed their way through the characters one by one. This movie had like 10 characters, and they're not the only ones that died. This movie had a pretty fair kill count compared to some of maybe horror icons. Maybe not as a franchise in total, but individually in a single movie, there was a lot. There was a good kill count in this one, and it was larger than some other, at least standard slashers, in my opinion. So that's another thing that made it interesting. Not only did it not take long to get into the action stayed, and it stayed interesting, and it kept picking up with plot twists and more interesting reveals. And so, sort of as they're being attacked, they're trying to argue who's going to go out and get help. Ultimately, someone does try to go out and get help, they get killed. Someone else runs, we see them get killed, but the characters don't know about it. And then a third person decides to go get help, and they seem to make it. But it's also been pointed out by one of the characters that no one has any cell service, so they're not going to be able to keep in touch with each other and really know what's going on outside of this house. I love that as sort of a nearly one location movie. It all takes place in this house. There is one scene where in the opening, when you see these killings happening, it turns out this is the neighbor's house. So technically, it's a second location that's barely used. This is mostly a one location kind of movie. Although it is a mansion, it's large enough that, it doesn't feel like one room, but it is one location. And so that keeps it interesting because you can see the details in the movie where maybe someone's injured coming through the window or what have you, and just seeing the bodies or the blood or the markings stay there several scenes later just meant that I feel there is a lot of attention to detail when making this movie. So I thought that was another interesting fact about this one as well. And so that's mostly what I'm going to consider the middle is thinning out the characters, if you will. So that happens for a while. And in the last third of the movie, you get the big reveal that one of these family members, this guy and his girlfriend, they are actually in on it. So it turns out that these killers aren't just random killers attacking this family. They were hired by one of their own. And so they want to collect on the inheritance from the rest of the family being finished off, essentially. And so they start to get involved, and things start going wrong because Erin, as it turns out, she's very shy with his family. She doesn't really, like I said, she struggles to connect with them, but they quickly realize she is very capable. She knows how to kill. She basically grew up in this, her father, it was whole survivalist sort of growing up for her. So she knows how to take care of herself. She knows how to defend herself, and this family member who paid for these killers, and these killers themselves, they weren't counting on that. They weren't counting on anyone fighting back, much less being successful at fighting back. So that's sort of the counter to all of the chaos going on, is she knows how to fight back. And as she does, these killers are sort of starting to have distrust for this family member, because this family member, he hates his family, but these guys, two of them are brothers, and they actually liked each other. So now there's some disconnect between this one of the brothers and these killers. There's disconnect and arguing with them, and that sort of is rifting them apart enough to where Erin is able to still slowly pick them off one by one, just as they had with most of the rest of the family at this point. And so it's sort of this, like I said, this one location, I just found it interesting because it's the killers versus the family, and then it becomes Erin versus the killers. And it just makes it more satisfying seeing her go after them, and seeing as this family member and his girlfriend, as they ultimately end up going after Erin themselves, they meet their demise as well, and along with the rest of the killers. So in this movie, you think that it's basically over. Erin gets her victory. She's finished off everyone in the house, basically, and everyone else is gone at this point. But in Felix, the brother that paid for these killers, his phone rings after he's dead, and Erin picks it up, and she hears Crispian's voice saying, "Hey, is it clear? Can I come back?" And then you get your plot twist that he was actually in on it all. Remember, earlier in the movie, he left to try to go find help, and they never heard him scream or get hurt, so they just assumed that he left. He went to go get help. He's telling the police and is on his way. And at this point in the movie, Erin's 911 text has actually gone through. So as viewers, we know cops are on their way. But now we have Erin versus Crispian. We have this one last final showdown. And as he comes back into the house, there's sort of this confrontation where he's trying to explain this in a way where it benefits her. He's trying to point out the fact that she doesn't have money, and if they collect the inheritance, they're going to get money. That's basically his pitch. And so it's almost in a way where you feel like maybe it's tempting for her, but she also has a sense of reason, and she axes him. she goes after him in his final moments, and she finally just puts an end to it. What's interesting is I need to do more research. I guess there were two versions of the movie. This one didn't say it was an unrated or uncut version of the movie. However, I have heard online there are two endings. So my ending is after Eren kills Crispian, she is shot in the shoulder, and as she's trying to get away, one of the traps she had set up in the house, very Home Alone style, ends up killing the one cop that showed up, and that's where it ends. I have heard that I think supposed to be an alternate version. You guys can correct me. I'm going to search for this myself. But I believe there is another ending where the cop, when he shoots her with a headshot, and that's that. The cop calls her back up, and that's the end of the movie. So, overall, this was a very interesting, engaging movie. It's just the sequences was fun. It was violent. There was a sequence where Eren is hunting one of the killers, where there's this camera that's just flashing, and it's sort of, we've seen this in John Wick, we've seen this in the Batman, where we see this fighting going on with just flickers of light as the scene goes on. That happened in this one as well, which I thought was really cool. It's an interesting choice. It was fun to watch. The music was on point for this whole movie. Music sometimes can just be easily overlooked in horror movies, but I thought it was a standout in this one, and that's another positive I had. So overall, I really liked this movie a lot. I thought it was fun, it was interesting, it was engaging, it kept my interest, had good plot twists, the violence was good, and overall, it was an interesting story. So I like it. You guys don't have to pick up this copy. This is the copy I wanted. There are multiple copies of the movie. You can have it for yourself. See it for yourself, and if you guys end up watching it, let me know what you think. I like this one a lot, and I want to hear other people talk about it. So if you see it, let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time.